A mother in Nanaimo, BC has been banned from her child's school after refusing to delete a social media post criticizing a teacher's Progress Pride flag shirt on the first day back.
Conservative MP Jamil Jivani criticized Ontario Premier Doug Ford, accusing him of lacking principles and creating cynicism among Conservative Ontarians.
Conservative Leader Pierre Poilievre has sent an open letter to Prime Minister Mark Carney, laying out 4 priorities the official opposition wants to see the government focus on when Parliament resumes next week. Hello Canada, it's Tuesday, September 9th, and this is the True North Daily Brief. I'm Cosmin, Dzsurdzsa.
And I'm Geoff Knight.
We've got you covered with all the news you need to know. Let's discuss the top stories of the day and the True North exclusives you won't hear anywhere else. A Nanaimo mother has been banned from her child's school after refusing to delete a social media post criticizing a teacher's Progress Pride flag shirt. On the first day of school, Bryony Dixon posted on Facebook objecting to a teacher wearing a Progress Pride flag t-shirt. While the original Pride flag was a symbol of gay rights, the Progress Pride flag is a symbol of intersectional social justice. Dixon made the post just days after a mass shooting at Annunciation Catholic Church and School in Minneapolis, where the 23-year-old trans-identified gunman opened fire, killing 2 children and injuring dozens before taking their own life. Dixon's post said in part, quote, "An ideologue teacher at my son's school has chosen to rock the extremist, misogynist, and homophobic flag of their shared secular religion on the first day back. A sex-denying transhumanist propaganda shirt made by the Nanaimo District Teachers Association." The post also discussed, quote, "denying girls the right to safety, privacy, dignity, fairness in sports, and even their own sex-based language upon fear of severe retribution." The next day, Nanaimo Ladysmith School District 68 sent Dixon a letter ordering her to remove the Facebook post. The district wrote that it considered her post, quote, "disrespectful to the staff member who was photographed," adding that, quote, "bullying and harassment, including sexual harassment in any form, is totally unacceptable and will not be tolerated." The letter concluded reading, quote, "On behalf of the district, I'm directing you to remove the offensive post. I also direct you to cease inappropriate posting of the images or comments with respect to the gender identity of our staff in the future." Dixon declined to remove it. Instead, she shot back in an email posted to X saying, quote, "You must cease and desist indoctrinating students with quasi-religious belief systems and listen to the valid concerns of your district's well-informed parents." We've covered a lot of instances on this show, Geoff, where regulatory bodies have gone after professionals for things they've said on their own personal social media. But how could a school board ban a parent for expressing their own views on a topic that's quite controversial and up for public debate, and extend that to essentially removing their ability to attend the school where their children go?
Yeah, Cosmin, a school board like Nanaimo Ladysmith School District 68 can ban a parent under its authority to maintain a safe and respectful environment, as outlined in its policies on bullying and harassment, which extend to interactions involving staff, according to Juno News coverage of the Byron Dixon case. The district's letter to Dixon invoked its right to protect staff from perceived harassment, such as her social media post criticizing a teacher's Progress Pride flag shirt, allowing it to impose restrictions like barring her from school premises if she refuses to comply with directives to remove offensive content. This action aligns with broader legal precedents where school boards, as public entities, can limit parental access to protect operational integrity, similar to how regulatory bodies suspend professionals for social media breaches. Though this parental ban hinges on the district's interpretation of disrespectful speech rather than a formal legal charge. The decision also reflects the district's discretion under British Columbia's School Act, which empowers boards to regulate conduct on school property, potentially extending to off-site behavior impacting staff, though it lacks a clear public appeals process, raising questions about fairness in Dixon's case. Conservative MP Jamil Jivani criticized Ontario Premier Doug Ford, accusing the progressive Conservative Premier of lacking principles and creating cynicism among Conservative Ontarians. potentially disengaging them politically. On Saturday, during an interview at the Canada Strong and Free Network's annual convention, Jivani criticized Ford, stating that he lacks ideology and values and instead governs based on popularity.
But I would say this is less of an ideological problem and more of a what is the point of politics problem. Okay, so let me explain what I mean. I don't think Doug Ford or the people in his administration believe they have an ideology. I don't believe they have come to a rational conclusion that there's a better way to be a conservative than what I or you would say. In fact, I'm not even sure they would be capable of having a conversation about conservative ideas or principles.
Jivani suggested Ford's main objective differed from the federal Conservatives, saying Ford's goal was to, quote, have and maintain power for as long as possible, at whatever cost. He said he and the CPC, on the other hand, want to do politics because they believe in certain values, ideas, and changes that they would like to create. In late April, on the night of the last federal election, Jivani targeted Ford, criticizing him for allegedly being a federal liberal hype man, having hollow politics and sabotaging the federal Conservative campaign. Ford and campaign manager Corey Tenaik claimed Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre's campaign was mismanaged and had blown a 20-point lead over the Liberals. Conservatives still won over 40% of the popular vote in that election, which was their best showing since 1988 under Brian Mulroney's PCs.
For weeks and weeks, I had been seeing volunteers putting their effort in to trying to help win this federal election. Kids who've never voted before, single moms making time after her shift to come and knock on doors, people who are giving everything they had. And when they would open up their phones and see stories of the so-called Conservative Premier of Ontario trashing what we were doing, they felt discouraged. And they deserve someone to speak up for them and tell this guy, I don't care about how, about your theatrics and your stunts. I don't respect you, and I'm going to point it out because I don't like what you're doing to the people who are trying to fight for a better country.
So, Cosmin, what is the reception to Jivani's comments online? Are people agreeing with Jivani, or has he drawn some criticism online?
Yeah, Geoff, I think if you look at the online reaction, the responses are overwhelmingly in favor of Jivani. And that's just a representation of the fact that way more people supported the federal Conservatives than, the subset of Conservatives who support Ontario Doug Ford, and as well as those, middle centrist voters who Doug Ford seems to have a handle on. But this is just a continuation of a difference of opinion, to put it lightly, between the federal Conservatives and the Doug Ford progressive Conservatives. This has been playing out since the election, where Jivani essentially blasted Ontario Premier Doug Ford and the Ontario PCs for what he said was sabotaging the Conservative campaign. Now, the lead up to the election, several progressive Conservative strategists from Ontario were going on air discussing Poilievre's polling, casting shade on the direction and leadership of the Conservative campaign. And that has created this rift and this back and forth, which seems to be continuing to this day. We even saw one pollster that the Ontario PCs rely on going online blasting Jamil Jivani for his acquaintance with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance. In an open letter to Prime Minister Mark Carney, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has laid out 4 priorities the official opposition wants to see the government focus on when Parliament resumes on September 15th. Poilievre said the opposition will press the government to tackle the cost of living crisis, the job loss crisis, the crime crisis, and the immigration crisis. Poilievre said, quote, "You promised you would change, but everything is worse. We will simply hold you to your lofty promises on these liberal crises." Poilievre accused Carney of breaking commitments made during the recent election, including pledges to rein in spending and deliver the fastest growing economy in the G7. He said, quote, You promised to spend less, yet even without introducing a budget, you're already spending 8% more, and you have doubled the deficit Trudeau left behind, said Poilievre. The Conservative leader also added that the cost of living crisis created by the Liberals has resulted in Canadians having the worst household debt, the highest housing costs, and the second highest unemployment in the G7. I mean, Poilievre is right. Carney did make a lot of lofty promises, and we all know that's part of election campaigns. You don't necessarily deliver on these promises, but Carney was essentially sold to Canadians as an economic genius, somebody with a lot of experience working with global economies. And the reality we are facing several months in, about 5 months into this government, isn't necessarily the reality Canadians were sold who voted for him. So has anything really improved on the economic front, or are we the same or perhaps even worse off than we were before?
Yeah, Cosmin, I mean, we're 5 months after Mark Carney took office in April, and his promise to change from Trudeau's Liberal Party has shown at best limited progress, with several indicators that things are actually getting worse. Juno News reports that unemployment rose to 7.1% in August 2025, up from 6.9% in July, marking the second highest in the G7, aligning with Poilievre's critique of a job loss crisis. Housing costs have continued to climb, with average home prices in Hamilton reaching $850,000 in August 2025, a 12% increase since April, exacerbating the cost of living crisis and householding debt, which now averages $1.85 per dollar of disposable income. Government spending has indeed risen by 8% without a new budget, doubling the deficit left by Trudeau to $60 billion, contradicting Carney's pledge to rein in expenditures, as noted in Poilievre's letter. On the immigration front, net migration remains high at 817,000 in the first 4 months of 2025, showing no significant shift from Trudeau's levels, while crime rates, including a 15% uptick in violent incidents in major cities like Toronto since June, suggest no improvement in public safety. No major economic growth to rank Canada as the fastest growing G7 economy has materialized, with GDP growth stalling at 0.2% in Q2 2025, indicating that little has improved under Carney's leadership.
That's it for today, folks. Thanks for tuning in. You can stay on top of new episodes every weekday by subscribing to the Daily Brief on iTunes and Spotify. Also, while you're at it, make sure to hit us with a 5-star rating and please leave a review.